Hey y'all, it's Chris and welcome back to Creative Loops. This is my channel where I explore all things yarn, crochet, and sometimes knit. And we're going to jump right into today's video. So today's video, I am going to review the 11th box of Hooks and Needles crochet subscription kit. So if you are new to my channel or new to this series, I have subscribed to the crochet kit from Hooks and Needles for a while now. This is my 11th box. It's a year subscription that I paid for up front, so this is not sponsored in any way. I paid for these boxes and I'm gonna share my experience with them. So in this 11th box, like I said, I paid for 12 months, so I have one more box coming. This box has actually been here for a while now, and I started working with it. I enjoyed it, and then was extremely disappointed. So, a bit of a roller coaster. I ended up forgetting that the box was here until I got an alert that the 12th box is now on its way. And so I went back and forth on whether I really wanted to do this video or just give up on this series. And I know some of you are here because of my first Hooks and Needles video and are following along, not necessarily because you're interested in subscribing, but interested in seeing what's in these boxes. So since I have them, let me share it. The first thing in every box is the booklet. Now, I've said in almost every video, I know I've said in every video that I've talked about Hooks and Needles, one of the things that disappoints me the most is that inside this booklet, they'll list what all of the contents are and the value. And they value the contents of this month's box at $68.80. And that includes 3 donuts of yarn. So I've already used this yarn, so this is what I have left. It came in these 3 different colors: dark green, a green, and a white. And this month's yarn is called Fusion Wool. This is 70% wool and 30% acrylic. And it is described in here. Fusion wool is made from 70% wool and 30% acrylic. Each skein weighs 1.76 ounces or 50 grams and measures 99 yards in length. Fusion wool is machine washable and shrink proof. It offers the warmth and natural feel of wool with the easy care and durability of acrylic, making it a practical choice for everyday projects that require comfort and resilience. Considering this has an acrylic blend, I'm actually really surprised at how scratchy this still is. It feels like a basic wool, what I would expect from a basic wool. It's kind of scratchy. It doesn't feel, it's not anything super special. It did irritate me a bit as I was crocheting with it as it glides over my finger, so I'm pretty sensitive to textures. If I don't like a texture, then I'm really done with it. This didn't get me to that point, but it was definitely noticeably not enjoyable. So they're valuing the three donuts, 3 skeins of yarn at $38.97. Again, this yarn is very expensive. They market this as premium yarns, and so they have a premium price tag on it. I honestly, in using these yarns, they don't feel any more premium than any other basic yarn that I would get from a yarn store. And so I don't really feel like the additional price that you're paying for it is warranted. I don't think you get it in the quality of the yarn. Next is, so they value this booklet at $17.85. They value the yarn, the 3 balls of yarn, at $38.97. And then they have a pom-pom that came with the kit valued at $1.99. And then every month you're supposed to have a free gift that's a part of the box, and they do include the value of the free gift in the overall total value of the box. which again, if you're telling me that I'm paying you $35 a month and I'm going to get a box that is valued at $70 or more per month, and on top of that I'm going to get a free gift, I'm not going to try, I'm not initially thinking that that free gift is also included in that value. But if you're going to include that in that value, I don't think you want to call it a free gift, because it still totals the total cost of what you're saying I should be getting every month. But this month's free gift is this table organizer. So it's all these wood pieces that end up slotting together and make this table organizer. It's described as, this clever wooden organizer is a crocheter's best friend, keeping everything you need right at your fingertips. Say goodbye to tangled yarn and lost hooks. With a built-in Swift and plenty of compartments, it turns any space into a neat and tidy crafting haven. Plus, it looks so good you'll want to show it off. I'm not going to put this together. I'm not going to make this. When I'm working on a project, I have a tray that I have sitting next to me that just has everything I need in it, and the stitch markers can hook on, the hooks don't get lost, scissors are there, the yarn fits in it. I use the tray, everything I need fits in that tray. I don't need anything else. I'm not going to have this, which seems like it would be somewhat flimsy in some areas, because I'm sure the wood's probably not cut perfectly. It might fall apart. It's not going to fit some of the bigger skeins of yarn that I work with. So this seems really pointless to me. They value this at $10. Those are the four items in this box that total $68.80 for the total value. And again, I paid approximately $35 for this box, paid for all 12 months up front. The boxes are said to range from $32 to $40 some odd dollars, depending on if you have a discount code or if you're paying for a year or month to month. The price might vary. Now, the booklet, again, you're paying $18 for the booklet, and if you're only looking at what is in the booklet, they do have some articles in here, but for the most part, you're paying for these patterns. I've said in the past that my biggest issue with some of these patterns is that they don't look finished. Some of them look very basic. Some of the instructions are not easy to follow, and so you're paying a premium pattern price, so about $6 per pattern. You're paying a premium pattern price for patterns that don't feel premium. Each pattern is supposed to be at a different level, so they have a beginner level, an intermediate level, and an advanced level. Something else that I've observed or feel from these boxes, from my experience, is that these patterns aren't really at the appropriate level that they're saying they're at. Some of the beginner patterns are definitely more intermediate. Some of the advanced patterns seem very basic, and so again, similar to that, the patterns this month don't really feel like they're in the right place. They do have a beginner pattern that is definitely a beginner pattern. It is this texture basket, and it's basically crocheting a circle and then going up to create the walls of the basket. I do feel like that pattern is appropriate for a beginner. Again, I don't necessarily feel like this pattern is a premium pattern worth $6. Yeah, it doesn't seem like this is a premium pattern. This is what they have for the beginner level. Then we have this magic snap hat for intermediate level. This is the pattern that I used. I did this one. This stood out as something that looked really cool to me. I was excited to work on this, and I did really like the pattern as I was working with it, but as you'll see, there were definitely some flaws with this as well. This is a mosaic crochet, and so I personally don't feel like mosaic crochet is intermediate level. I feel like that is more of an advanced level because you have different stitches that aren't necessarily these traditional stitches that are like, it's not just variations of double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet, making up more complex stitches. These are some more non-traditional stitches that the pattern would be more appropriate for a more advanced crocheter. Then what they have in here as the advanced pattern, I do agree this is an advanced pattern as well, even though I don't feel like this is more advanced than the hat. I feel like this might have been able to pass as the intermediate pattern, and then the hat would have been more appropriate as the advanced pattern, but it is these snug fit socks. And so the snug fit socks, this is a variation of just those basic stitches that you have. There are some back loop only crochet stitches that are in here, but definitely not as many as in this hat that we created. It does require more construction though, so I can see why this would be considered more advanced than the hat because of the construction that's involved. There's definitely more sewing together than you would usually do. This pattern feels pretty, again, basic. It's not, I wouldn't use this yarn to make socks. And I don't think they gave us enough yarn for the projects outside of that first project, and we'll get to that as well. Outside from the projects, this booklet has a section about a crocheter's guide to understanding yarn labels. That's the section at the front of the booklet, and then in the end of the booklet it has master the art of joining crochet pieces, so seaming techniques, and it has a small paragraph for the slip stitch seam, single crochet seam, whip seam, and then beyond seaming they go through different methods: join as you go, surface crochet, edging techniques, and it just talks a little bit about yarn consistency, blocking. So it goes through and goes over just a few of the basics for crochet, and then it has a recipe in here for pancake cereal. So that's the contents of this book. Again, I personally have said in the past, I don't feel like if I saw this book on the shelf in the store and it was sitting there for $18, I would not pay $18 for this. You can find books and magazines on the shelf at your local craft store that have way more patterns than this, that are more detailed in nature, for the same price, if not cheaper than that $18 price tag. Now, getting into the project. Like I said, I made this magic snap hat. And one of the first things that I noticed when looking at the project, because I don't usually do a gauge swatch, but for this I wanted to make sure that I'm following the pattern as close to it as possible to be able to give a fair review of it. So I did do a gauge swatch. I was a little bit under on the gauge, and when I was looking at the sizing, I already was concerned about it being a little too small, so I added on 10 extra rows to the brim. So here's the hat. Here's the hat. You first start by you chain here to make the brim, and then you do single crochet back loop only all the way around to make the brim, and then you would start adding on, you would reattach your yarn along the edge of each row to then start working up to make the hat. Now, when looking at these measurements, tell me if you see anything weird. They have here that the circumference of a hat, circumference is the distance around, the circumference of a hat for a toddler is 12.5 inches or 32 centimeters. For a child, is 1 inch bigger, 13.5 inches or 34.5 centimeters. And then for an adult is 14.5 inches or 37 centimeters. Now I know I've made crochet hats before, and I know that when you're making a hat, you want to account for negative ease. So which basically means you don't want the hat's circumference or width to be as big as or bigger than your own circumference or width. So you want it to be smaller. So you want it to have a negative ease, which usually is about 1 inch, maybe 2 inches, depending on how stretchy the stitch that you're using is and the yarn that you're using. So I had to consult Google, and according to Google, the average head size for an adult is around 22, 23 inches, which when I measured my head, it is 23 inches around. And so when they have an adult's hat circumference being at 14.5 inches, that's a pretty huge difference. I wanted to trust the process. So I did, like I said, I added 10 rows here, which added about 1.5 inches to the circumference of the finished piece. And here we go. This is supposed to be the adult-sized hat. I don't know an adult that is gonna fit this hat. I really liked the pattern though. I liked how creating this pattern going around and doing the mosaic crochet. I haven't done a lot of that in the past, and so working on this was really fun to just do something that I don't really do that often. And so I really enjoyed making this hat, but this is definitely not an adult size hat. I tried to put it on Dante and it was really tight on Dante as well. Dante said that it was not comfortable to him. So I wouldn't even really call this a child's hat. This I think would be, I did the adult size pattern, but I think I ended up with the toddler size hat. So I might be able to give this to my niece. If not, I can donate it somewhere else. It is a really nice hat. It's nice and warm. It is still on the scratchier side, but it's yeah, I don't know if an infant or toddler would want this close to their skin. It's not that irritating, but it could be scratchy. It might be irritating. So I really, like I said, I really loved doing this pattern, so much so that I know in the past I've mentioned that my favorite yarn is a wool acrylic blend from We Crochet or Knit Picks. It is Mighty Stitch. This is 80% acrylic and 20% superwash wool. So the wool and acrylic percentages are somewhat reversed. This is really soft. It has a sheen or shine to it that is really beautiful. And I would love to have this close to my skin. So I decided to make a hat using this yarn, and I was inspired by the pattern from this month's Hooks and Needles kit, but I wanted something that was very simple, that I could just do a single row repeat instead of a 4 or 5 row repeat. I did, like I said, added a few rows so that that little motif could be incorporated in there too, into different areas, and then cinched it at the top, did some decreased rows before pulling it tight, and then just sewing that closed. So this is the hat that I decided to make, that would then be more appropriate for an adult. Yeah. So while this month's box in itself was very disappointing, it was still inspiring. It did inspire me to practice some more with some mosaic crochet and make a hat that I really enjoy. I have, like I said, I have one more box coming. It is the 12th and final box in my subscription. I will do one last video on this. I'm hoping that maybe the final box will be really good. Maybe we'll go out with a bang and be like super excited about the contents of that 12th box. But if any of the boxes up until now are proof of anything, I think it would probably be very disappointing. So all in all, I would not recommend hooks and needles to anyone really. If you are excited about the possibility of getting new yarn and trying out some new yarns, I would recommend a mystery bag from like Mary Maxim, Lion Brand. You can go on Etsy, purchase some mystery yarn from a couple of sellers, and maybe just focus on that. This is very overpriced for what you get, and the experience has not been that pleasant. The patterns, even the ones that seem very exciting to me, like this pattern, I was really excited to make this hat, and to be let down at this final product is really disappointing. It's a beautiful hat, and if there was just more energy put into the pattern, and I think honestly, I think they knew the hat would not be big enough for an adult. I think they were probably hoping for folks to make the child size or toddler size because of the pom-pom. It is more of a child hat, and I don't think that they had enough yarn in order to make a hat that would have been big enough for an actual adult. So honestly, I think that this was done on purpose. That's my assumption. I have no proof of that, and do with that information as you want. But that is what I have for you today. Thank y'all, and I hope you keep those creative loops going. Bye.